Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RVBusiness Capital Talk, sponsored by Eckstein, also available in podcast. I'm Rick Kessler from RVBusiness. With me, as always, Sherm Goldenberg from RVBusiness, and joining the three of us today, and I'm going to use my notes here so I don't screw it up too badly, Rob Crist, President and GM of Robert Crist and Company RV in Mesa, Arizona. Ken Eckstein, Chief Operating Officer, Mount Comfort RV in Greenfield, Indiana. And Jason Friesen, Vice President, Voyager RV Center in Winfield, British Columbia. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Sherm, kick us off.
Well, I mean, the main dish, the reason we've invited you to join us here basically is to get some good ground level information from some recreation vehicle retailers about what everybody is seeing out there. And something that we talked about doing, and I'm glad we are. And so having said that, we all watch the news. We all read the industry press. We know it's one of the crazier times in modern history for a variety of reasons. And crazy isn't all bad, but it is what it is. What do you, if we had to just set the scene of this market right now, from any perspective that seems to make sense, what would you have to say? And we can start with any one of you, but just for the sake of organization, Ken, why don't you go ahead?
Well, and we just came out of we have a show in January, first week of January, and the attendance was comparable to what we had in 18 and 19. The sales were hard to come by. We had to have our selling shoes on. We saw real good activity in the entry-level stuff. Mid-level stuff and high stuff was a lot harder to come by.
Indianapolis show, is that what you're talking about?
Indianapolis show, right, Central Indiana.
But go ahead, to widen that up.
Well, and like I said, our buyers were very, very price conscious. And nobody walked in and said, that's the one we want. Everybody had to visit 3 or 4 booths. Our show, the success was moderate. 2 weeks after the show, we had a lot of residual. And I think because they went to the show, they got a price, then they went out and looked at the real world and validated that price. So a lot of people came back to us.
Jason, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, it's sort of what we're seeing as well. We don't have an indoor show that we attend, but there's been a few up in Canada already, and that's sort of what we're hearing through the grapevine on it is really good traffic. I'm not hearing anything about sales knocking it out of the park. And I think it's sort of going back to where we were pre-pandemic, which is, as Ken alluded to, sort of they're going to take their time, make sure they research the right one, make sure if they're going to be buying in the current, macroeconomic conditions that we have, that it's going to be the right price from the right dealer, it's going to be the right brand. And I think that's going to carry on through the year. Still healthy, still, a lot of demand, but it's definitely the buying cycle's gone back to more of a normal time frame, which was traditionally, wasn't overnight or on first visit. So that's what we're seeing too.
Rob,
I look at the market as being bad news and good news. The bad news that we have going on right now is most dealers are overstocked. Most dealers have too many 22s in stock. And the problem with 2022 units is that they are the most expensive units that we currently have, more expensive than the 23s for the most part. Interest rates are, as everyone knows, has been going up. We were really spoiled with cheap money, cheap floor planning. The good news is that the American public, the RV enthusiasts, they still need to hit the road. So there are buyers out there. The good news is that the pandemic brought in a better class of buyer as far as age is concerned. We started looking at customers that were much younger than we really have seen before. And as they're enjoying their RVs, they will continue to move up in the scheme of things as far as purchasing RVs. So that's good news. 21 was a great year for, I think, everyone. If it wasn't, shame on them. 22 ended for us on the same note. We had a great year in 22. We were up in sales, down a little bit in gross, and being down in gross was a reflection of getting rid of the 22s that we currently have in stock. So we have some challenges ahead of us. The buyers are not knocking the doors down by any means. Like Jason, we don't have an indoor show in Arizona, so it's hard for me to gauge what's going out there nationally. But I'm optimistic. The American public they don't stay tied down too long. It's like the old American West with stagecoaches. There was a migration from east to west. That still happens today. There's exploration that needs to be done, and an RV is the perfect way of doing it.
But one of you other two gentlemen, could you take that to the next level, what he's saying? I mean, I'll just open the door.
Yeah, one of the things I found curious, we've seen, from 2017, 2018 on, the demographic continually has gotten younger and younger and younger, which is great for us because it's more opportunity to sell them multiple RVs. But my January show, I can't remember a time where we talked to as many older first-time buyers. I mean, when I say old, I mean older than Sherm. So I mean, people in their 60s and late 60s coming in saying, we're looking at buying an RV for the first time. And I don't know if that was a blip or if that's something coming back that, that we're seeing a lot of older people coming into the market.
Okay.
And I think there's a huge focus on price, and face it, there should be. The United States from 2000 to 2003 saw inflation at a 15.45 inflation rate. We've seen 30, 40, maybe even as high as 50% on our RVs in that same time frame. Right. So I think people slowing down and looking at prices is a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think the demographics in our industry, I mean, they're still so, in our favor. And that's just we're a lucky industry to have that. And I don't think that's going to change. And as Rob said, it's only maybe gotten better in the last couple of years. But going back to what Rob mentioned about the 2022 model RVs, that's what I see as one of the biggest challenges for these first couple quarters of this year. I know for us, we have, I think 18% of our inventory by dollars are 2022 models, but stats from Wells Fargo in Canada, it looks like there's some provinces that the average is over 60% of their inventory is still 2022s. And, they're going to have to sell through those, and all dealers are going to have to sort of sell against them. That's going to, on its own, make sure it take charge of controlling the price and where, the RVs will be marketed at. But it's going to take a while to sell through those. And for us as a dealership, that's I was surprised to see that that's how high it was. And, but it'll help correct things, I think, on its own.
So you guys, more or less, one of the messages I'm hearing is that you're fairly, especially with Rob there, pretty confident that we're going to retain a good portion of the new buyers or the bulge of the pandemic era as buying public. You're rather, I don't want to candy coat it, but you seem rather confident that we retain this retail group.
Yeah, absolutely. My only concern there is that there were a lot of people during the pandemic that purchased RVs that weren't perhaps as high quality as we like to stock, but we needed to have inventory, so turned to some lesser quality units to sell. And that opens an opportunity eventually for a trade-in, or it might be a situation where the buyer is just so disinterested in the product due to quality that they go out of the market.
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. There has been quite a bit of trading going on, recent trading, like within a year or two of ownership during the pandemic. So that kind of bolsters what I'm saying.
And I think too that the two biggest clouds on our immediate future are the quality of what we put out the last 2 years as an industry, and the pricing of what we're charging, for our stuff today. I mean, if I'm comparing, one manufacturer to another, and I'm looking at a 30-foot trailer with a slide, that's all well and good. But when I'm comparing my 30-foot trailer with a slide to a timeshare at Disneyland, when I'm comparing it to a vacation home, when I'm comparing it to a cruise, RVs have historically been very, very cheap. I mean, very affordable is probably a better way of putting it. We're not anymore. We're in a whole different realm. And when people are looking at, a new pickup truck or a new RV, that pickup truck's a lot more attractive than it used to be.
Jason?
Yeah, I think there's no, two ways around the fact that we're in a better place as an industry since the pandemic and because of the, the frenzy, I guess, that we had for those 2 years, but it's not without its challenges for sure. And the question about whether we're going to retain those pandemic buyers, I'd like to think majority of them had a great experience camping and out in the outdoors, even if it was a little forced or they felt it was forced. Where there's some challenges with supply chain and being able to get the parts to service those units for sure. So we're not going to retain them all, but that's part of the reason why I'm excited coming into this year. Inventory levels are high, of course. Economic factors are maybe against us. But I think in the way the last couple of weeks have been, there's a lot of demand here, but we're just going to have to compete. We're going to have to compete as dealerships and as business owners to make sure that we get back to finding out how to get that business and how to get that person not only into the RV industry, but into our stores. And that's when it becomes fun too. I'm actually looking forward to this year. So
I've got
100% with Jason. He
go ahead.
hit the nail on the head there.
I have a home stretch question, Rick, but did you have anything you wanted to ask first?
Go for it.
All right. Well, the big question in North America right now with this market is, when do you suspect we resume a more normal kind of a cycle? Yeah, how long is it? What point in 2023, if that's the case, what quarter do you think we get back or get close to where things ought to be? Any one of you?
I think that's predicated on interest rates, Sherman. When we see a downturn in interest rates is when I'll see the market come back into some state of normal. But until then, as interest rates continue to rise, it just makes it more difficult for the payment shopper to be able to afford the vehicle that they want.
And they just bumped up yesterday.
Right. And talking about bumping it up again in March too. But I think there is some good news on the horizon. So to answer your question, maybe the end of 23, I'm looking probably at 24.
Okay.
And I think too, if you look at the International Monetary Fund, they had a mixed report last week, probably shortening the time of a recession, maybe predicting a smaller recession. The Fed went up by a quarter point yesterday. By some people, that was perceived as a good option or a better option than a half point at least. I think there's a lot of reasons for us not to go into a deep recession. I think in the RV world, though, we've got an opportunity. We've had, the 3 years, 4 years prior to to COVID, we were growing that younger demographic and growing our appeal to a national basis. You turn on the TV and the glass commercials are showing fixing a window in an RV. The tow commercials are showing pulling a fifth wheel. The Kroger commercial in our market has low play people in front of a travel trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, we're becoming a mainstream industry. And if we get this right, if we can build a quality product, put it out there at an affordable price, we can set ourselves up for the next 2 or 3 generations. If we don't get it right, we're still going to be doing okay. But what a missed opportunity.
Jason?
Yeah, for us, I know the Fed just increased their rate by a quarter point. Our Bank of Canada went up about 10 days ago as well. I think what we need as an industry and then at the dealership level as well is just some stability and some news of that things have worked and we're going to maybe maintain where we're at. And I think that we got that up here on the last rate hike. They were talking about likely not going up again in the near future, if at all. And again, that's just an educated guess, but it definitely was. You could almost hear the collective sigh of relief a little bit that way, because let's be honest with the reason for these interest rate hikes and to bring inflation down is they're saying, without saying in exact words, but is don't buy things like RVs.
Yeah.
And that's a tough spot to be in this industry. And I get it and I understand it, but there's such a big part of our, consumer base that hasn't really been affected by these interest rates, whether they've owned a house for a while, or they've been in the market for 20 years, dual income families, but even just subconsciously, they're thinking, well, we can't buy an RV now because of the rates or because of this or that. So I think stability is going to be something that will let us sort of move forward. And even with fuel costs, that when that stabilized a little bit, if not came down, that narrative kind of went away and we're able to get out and think about things like recreating with our families and what it's going to take and what you need to do that. So.
Very good.
Yeah, again, we speaking for Rick here too, we appreciate the heck out of you joining us today and helping make us smarter, if not all our viewers. And Rick, take it away.
Okay. Real quick, Jason, I was chuckling a little bit. You're calling for stability and of course we all like that. None of us have yet to mention that we're getting into yet another election cycle that'll always bring stability. Gentlemen, no, thank you very much. I all appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Take care.
guys.